Yeah, that's why I don't look. Yeah. It's like some things I don't want to know.
That's fair. Straight but gay. Do you know that if I'm like, hey Russell, you need to keep going straight, like in the car, he's like, it's forward. And he goes, Russell has very huge. He doesn't do a lot of shit. Find your seats for me, please. It is July 24th. It is 4 p.m. And we are here today for our emergency meeting of the Doña County Board of County Commissioners. If you're able to, please do stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Brandy, at this time, will you please do a roll call of the commissioners for determination of quorum?
Commissioner Gameros,
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds,
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Chair Chaparro,
Present.
Chair Shaljo Hernandez.
Present. We do have a quorum this afternoon. The commission convenes as the Board of County Commissioners and the County Board of Finance in open session. We do have one agenda item today, which is the emergency disaster declaration. And we do have our Assistant County Manager, Mr. Lopez, here today to get this going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. It's unfortunate that we have to get together under these tragic circumstances for the people who have been impacted by flooding, both over the last 2 days in the Vado and Del Cerro areas, as well as a couple weeks earlier than that up in the Rincon area. We are bringing before you a resolution that would declare a disaster in Doña County and request assistance from the governor's office. We believe that a combination of the damage done to county roads as well as to county flood control structures will meet the spending threshold necessary to receive state assistance. But either way, it is appropriate for you all to discuss this item because we are also asking for something very unique. It's never been done before in New Mexico, and that is provide individual assistance for people whose homes have been impacted and that they can either not get to or may have been totally destroyed. So unfortunately, we don't have anywhere else we can look to for this program, so we have done our best to provide you with what we think may work. You each have a copy of the resolution, and I will, if you would like to read the resolution in so that people can understand what we're talking about, or if you would like, we can turn to the Office of Emergency Management and the Flood Commission to talk about what has happened and the efforts that have taken place. It's your call.
Okay. Commissioners, do you want to proceed with the resolution or do you want to do the presentation first? What are your preference?
Presentation.
Presentation. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask Amanda Bowen then to come up and run us through everything that's happened.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Hello, Commissioners. Amanda Bowen, Emergency Manager for Doña County. I've prepared a presentation for you. Doesn't look as pretty as it did on my computer screen because some of the fonts are weird, but we'll look through that. It did look a little prettier, just so you know. Appreciate everybody's support over the last few days as we've worked with the community members. I want to start by explaining to you kind of the trajectory of what has occurred. We, on Tuesday night, had some flash flooding hit Vado and the surrounding communities. There was between 2 and 2.5 inches of rain that fell within about an hour window, both in the watershed up above the community as well as down into the community. As you can see here on the map, there's some big yellow spots. That's really where the focus of the rainfall was. That rainfall then had pushed down into the community even further, and you can see on this map here, the swath of rain really tracked eastward as it fell into the arroyos and rushed across the interstate. There were some impacts not only to interstate traffic. There's typically a pretty good infrastructure carrying water from that arroyo underneath the interstate. Those culverts were overwhelmed and floodwaters did go over the interstate and both of the frontage roads there that are alongside the interstate. That water really impacted the traveling public. We had lots of vehicles that were impacted and people who were stranded or had to be rescued from their vehicles. And those floodwaters then pushed downwards towards the river and into a lot of people's homes. The response actions, we had some technical rescue teams that were conducting rescues both from vehicles and from homes. We had some reports of waist-deep water in some people's homes, in addition to the folks that were either on the side of the road or having to be rescued from their vehicles that night. Our incident command and area command were stood up pretty quickly, and we activated the Emergency Operations Center. Additionally, we opened an evacuation shelter at the Vado del Cerro Community Center for people who could safely get there, or those that were being rescued would have a safe spot to go to. We had you can see the logos of a lot of our participating entities. We had a really good, strong response group that came together. We had Doña County Fire, the Sheriff's Department, State Police, City Fire, and their technical rescue teams, as well as their administration, an MDOT, Mesilla Fire, the New Mexico National Guard helping with some LMVTs, the Red Cross, Mesilla Valley Search and Rescue, many Doña County departments and entities that respond to these things on a regular basis, as well as the Elephant Butte Irrigation District. I'm going to show you some pictures so you can get an idea of that full impact. These are some rescue photos taken from both Mesilla Valley Search and Rescue and some of the KFOX News images that had been submitted of the roadway rescues. Unfortunately, we don't have really great pictures of the deep water rescues because people were busy trying to either survive or rescue others. And so not a lot of good pictures that I've found thus far. Additionally, a lot of our residents have sent in photos through the damage assessments and through other means to us to show us some of the impacts they're seeing. Floodwaters, mud and silt inside their homes, access issues to their homes. Maybe they can't get out because their wheelchair ramps are now inundated with water. And then, of course, just access to and from their properties has become very, very, very difficult. Again, some more pictures just for context for you. The water in many places is significant height on some of the images. Mobile homes look like they're about 3 feet high on the side of the mobile home. Appears to have affected the foundations of properties, as you can see here, vehicles, and just generally our community took on a lot. We do have a lot of public infrastructure that has been impacted as well. We had a lot of road closures the night of, road closures that have continued because of the impacted roadways that either took on water, are still having water come across them, or have some structural damage to them. Our road crews have been out working diligently from the moment we started getting calls. They have performed a lot of repairs to the roadways and are really focusing on continuing those repairs. There's still some places in which they're not able to access the roads, and so they're still just trying to clean up the area as much as possible. At this point, they have not been able to access private roadways, which a lot of Vado is private roadways. We're hearing that from a lot of citizens, a little bit of frustration around that. But due to the anti-donation clause, our crews have not been able to go onto the private roadways for those repairs. A disaster declaration would help and would mean that we can go and help make them passable. We can't still clean them for them, but we can help make them passable if the board deems possible. Let's see, also the crews are working throughout the county, so not just on these roadways, but throughout the county there were some impacts. And so they're working in other communities as well, but they're working tirelessly. Some other impacts to our utilities, particularly our wastewater system. It has, in a 24-hour period, taken on 1.5 million gallons. The last 24-hour period was 1.2 million gallons. Our capacity, for your understanding, is 1.05 million gallons, so well over capacity. And the daily average of those systems is 400,000 gallons. So our teams there are really working hard. We have brought in pump trucks to help reduce the levels of water and bring that down to a normal level. But the crews are having to manually be resetting the system regularly because the pumps that are taking that water out are tripping because they're being overworked. So our crews, again, are just having to work real hard there. The wastewater system is probably right now one of the biggest systems that is removing water from the area. So we know that there's a lot of standing water. We understand that that's difficult for residents. Our wastewater system is pulling a lot of that out. It's not really designed for that, but it is functioning that way. And so you can see the effects there. And I anticipate there are issues with manholes and other concerns that will come about when that water drains away. I'll let John Gwen come up from the Flood Commission, and he can talk to you about the impacts to the flood infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Gwen with the Flood Commission. We wanted to go over with you a little bit some of the damages that we've seen. The Vado channel, which was one of the first photos that Amanda showed you where you saw some water pipes. That's where the stormwater came over the DOT frontage road and into the Vado channel. The amount of sedimentation and damage to the channel is quite extensive. We did an assessment and actually a cost estimate late last night and came up with, just to bring it back to its existing or pre-storm conditions, is about $3 million. We haven't been able to assess the Lily Pond yet. It's still so overloaded with water and sediment that we can't get in there to see what it was. The Lily Pond was completed in the fall of last year. But again, this storm was very large and it did overwhelm that structures. The water was actually from a different source than this one and came across through the dairies into this pond. So with that, I want to show you a video. This is drone footage from our flight yesterday. So this is the Mesquite Drain. This is where most of the water would normally go to. You can see that it's completely overwhelmed at this point, and water's not moving, and the water here is not really getting into it. It's not really designed to do that way, but that's how it functions in a storm like this. So right now we just left Vado Road. We're heading to the north along this Mesquite Drain. In one of our capital outlay projects that we're looking at for the near future, this area here would be a pond, which would take some of that water. And of course, we're still searching for funding for that project. Now, as we move forward, this is a little bit lengthy, but I wanted you to see some of the damage because you see it better from aerial footage than anything else. This green patch that you see up here in the top, this is our big Vado channel pond. This is about 25 acres. It was completely overwhelmed. And it's all sedimented up, and that's part of where the big dollars come from, is trying to get rid of all the sediment that's there. And the channel that leads the water to there is just almost totally destroyed. As we keep going to the north, this area here is the Swanwick area, where we had a lot of the emergency responses. And again, we'll keep moving forward. Are there any questions at this point?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales. Para las personas quienes estén escuchando de habla español, para que ustedes sepan, ha llegado el vicegobernador Howie Morales, con quien hablé esta mañana, y él ha prometido dar su fuerte compromiso y apoyo a nuestro pueblo.
Welcome.
So this is the channel that brings all that water across I-10 into this area, and you can just see that it's all overwhelmed.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yeah, this forest you're showing here, this area where the water is now, this is not the Lily Pond either, is it?
No, it's not.
Say, how much was the Lily Pond capable of handling?
A lot. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. Mike, you know what those numbers are? So the Lily Pond should be able to handle the 100-year event, and we're approaching that now. So I'll show you what it looks like at this point,
All right, thank you.
okay? The Lily Pond is on the northern edge of the community. It actually receives water from an arroyo that comes across the dairy, but also from the interior of the community up by Palmilla and La Fe. We have storm drains in that area. And that area looks pretty decent at this point. So we were able to get a lot of the water off of that area. But this pond, even though it's brand new, it received an enormous amount of damage just because the water was moving so fast.
Hey, John, I've got a couple softball questions and just to help clarify. I've heard that we've pumped roughly 3.3 million gallons out thus far. Is that pretty close to accurate?
So the Flood Commission doesn't have any pumps. We're not pumping at all.
Right.
Everything out of our system currently is gravity, so it all goes into this drain. And that's part of the issue that you can see. Here's where the pond, the Lily Pond, comes into the drain. Here's the pond itself. And you can see these areas, this is all sediment. And even as it comes in here off of the dairy area, this channel is just loaded with sediment and debris. So, as I said, we're not pumping it at all,
Right,
okay?
understood. Stephen, I saw you nodding when I said 3.3. Okay.
So, are there any other questions that I can answer for you?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, regarding the sediment, was that brought in with the recent rain, or was that brought in a few months ago? Has it been long standing there?
No, this is all from this storm.
Thank you.
So this storm was a fast-moving storm, and so what you see is, we actually did some videos upstream, up in the watershed too. You can see where all the sediment is basically coming in, and they dropped all on the DOT road on the east side of I-10. It was just a massive, fast-moving storm. Anything else I can answer for you, Commissioners?
Commissioner Sanchez, do you have anything to ask while you're online?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I was kind of curious. I know we've been talking specifically here at Vado, but Mr. Lopez, when he did the introduction, had indicated also the storm that we've seen in Rincon. And so I was curious if there's been any evaluation by Mr. Gwynn and the staff on what could be done with in Rincon, because I believe this is the second year in a row where we've had some heavy rains that come through the community from the north side, which I think is BLM land. But essentially, we've seen significant amounts of water that come through and seems to be very unmitigated. So I don't know if there's any analysis or review that's been done by Mr. Gwynn and the team in Rincon.
Commissioner Sanchez, that's a very good question. We've actually been looking, we do have a master drainage plan for that area. There is some projects that we have planned for the area. Again, we don't have funding for any of that at this point. But yes, there are some potential projects, and I was even having a conversation with Amanda Bowen about some potentials for that area. So we're definitely looking at it. We're not standing here waiting for the next thing to happen.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of questions, and I don't know if John or Amanda will be able to answer this, but as we're going through this, there was a mention of the wastewater overflow, and I'm wondering if the wastewater has actually overflowed into the community, because I know that when there's a lot of rain and we're using the wastewater system to pull out that water, I'm concerned that there might perhaps be contamination because of standing wastewater or overflow. I don't know if we have any manholes over there, but certainly not being able to pull water out quickly.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Stephen Lopez, Assistant County Manager. I'll take that one because I've been in close contact with Maria Rascon. Actually, she and I met out there on the scene at 2 o'clock in the morning, the night that this happened. You're absolutely right. The entire wastewater system in this area was completely overwhelmed. For the first 36 hours, every one of our pumps was working full bore, and the pumps were getting so hot from that continuous work that, as Amanda Bowen indicated, we actually had to station crews at the switches to manually reset them to keep them flowing. That will probably cause us some challenges later on, but as County Manager Andrews indicated, that system is the only thing really moving lots of water out besides what little we're getting out through the drain. So the system right now has pumped 3.3 million gallons at least out of this area. And when you think in terms of how much has been pumped out and you see on the video how much is still there, you can see that this is a big challenge. The county does have additional pumps, but we can't use them right now because there's no place to pump the water to other than somebody else's property. So we're really kind of stuck right now with that. And kind of specifically to your question of, so did that mean the water's contaminated? The water is absolutely contaminated, not just with human excrement, but also with a lot of runoff from animals. So that is absolutely there. And what we're finding, Maria Rascon reported to me earlier this morning that as they're going in, they're finding out that it's not just in the manholes and the lift stations that are underwater, but we've actually had residents remove the caps off of their cleanouts in an attempt to get water to flow into the cleanouts and into the sewer system. And what that does is, if there's water somewhere else at a higher pressure, it actually reverse flows the sewage right back up in front of their house. So it's unfortunate that they're at that situation, but the system is working very well, as Amanda indicated. They're even using, it's taking in all that same mud that John just described. So they're having to have vacuum trucks at the lift stations to remove the sediment so that the pumps can continue to operate 24/7. Happy to report that while we have 7 lift stations in the region, and all of them were working that first day and a half, now we only have 4 that are working continuously. Those are the 4 that are right in what you're seeing on the video. Other areas in the valley, three other areas, have cleared up to the point where those pumps are no longer working 24/7. But these are not huge lines. So even though the pumps are working full time, we're pumping into 4-inch and 6-inch and 8-inch lines. We have exceeded, as Amanda indicated, the capacity of the wastewater treatment system. So we are in, I'm going to loosely call this bypass mode. We are not doing full treatment on all the water flowing in. We are still chlorinating it before it goes back to the river. That is the same approach that was utilized back in 2021 when we had the La Union floods, which also impacted the Vado area at that time. The state is aware that is an accepted method because we're in an emergency situation. So they do give us that allowance. And if there is a bright spot on that, the solution to pollution is dilution. So having all of this extra water cuts down on the concentration of bacteria and other things that might be in the water. With that being said, we don't encourage people to be going through the floodwaters. We don't encourage them to be walking around with exposed skin. But at the same time, what has been used in other parts of the country where they close off the area, put up police barricades and don't let people go home, is not what we think is advisable here. So we have been allowing people to go back into their homes, to start cleaning, to retrieve personal belongings, while the Disaster Resource Center has been helping those people who can't return home connect with other resources. Does that answer your question?
Well, part of it, yes. So if
Okay.
I may just I have a couple of follow-ups. Do we know how many households are impacted by this contamination? That's one. The area of containment and contaminated. And have the households been notified both in English and in Spanish of those persons affected?
I will turn that back over to our emergency manager because she can talk a little bit more in detail about the assessment since that night.
So if you will give me just a second to go through a few slides so I could talk to you about other efforts that are underway, I will get to the answer to your question. I just don't want to have to flip back and forth with slides if that's okay.
Thank you, yes.
Okay. Appreciate it. Oh, it is the next slide. I apologize. Look at me. The damage assessments, we do have some damage assessment tools. And so to answer your question, we're gathering the information about what the actual impact is. We had teams out yesterday walking through the area. Actually, night of, we had a team. Our assistant county manager was out driving and others out driving to try to map the area that was impacted. But as we were trying to map that, the floodwaters were rising. And as water has continued to come down from the watershed, it continues to rise. At this point, it is dissipating, but very, very slowly because the lack of capacity to move the water out. So we have a pretty good understanding of that area that's impacted. I think the residents are fully aware of whether they were impacted at all. We've been sending out through social media and through door-to-door knocks and that kind of thing to try to talk with them and make sure that we understand the full extent of the impact on each individual household. We do ask that if they don't want to talk with us directly at their homes or they're not available there, they can access our online tools to be able to submit disaster information to us there. Not only is that name and address and contact information so we can connect with them offline, but also they can submit photographs. And that really helps us build that bigger, broader picture. We anticipate, we made some really big headway today in our disaster assessments. I don't know that they're going to finish them today. We had a robust team out, but it just takes a lot of time. I think we want to be very thorough. We want to make sure that each resident gets the resources they need. And so that documentation is just taking a little longer than we would hope. We do have teams that can go back out tomorrow, and we anticipate tomorrow being able to build that really full picture. We have some mapping tools that we're working with so that we can provide information to you all so that you can see the worst destructed areas, those that have minor damage, that kind of thing, for your own information, but also for the focus of resources as we do deliver out that help. We will have FEMA recovery teams. While we don't have any sort of declaration right now, the state has some declarations that have already happened. And so they've got FEMA teams that are already working with the state that are helping to cover the state recovery portion. That's something we normally work with them, whether there's a disaster declaration or not. They've queued up some teams to come down next week to help us with what they call preliminary damage assessments. And that's really looking at our initial assessments and then having some more focused looks at actual structural impacts and things like that. So they will be coming into the community. We have some direct community support that's been offered. Our Southern New Mexico COAD, if you're not familiar with COAD, it's Community Organizations Active in Disaster. Basically, it's a group of groups. It's all the do-gooders in our community that already want to help, and they come in, and we have created an organization so we can work through what a disaster looks like. We know as a government, we can't fix everyone's problems. We know that a lot of these organizations want to come in and help, and so this is an organized way in which they can come in and we can work so that we're not going in and feeding everybody on Monday and no food goes in on the rest of the week. There's lots of different types of things that come from the COAD. They have activated for this, and as a part of that, we have stood up the 211 call center line. 211 is always a resource in our community, but it's expanded to be a call center for this disaster so people can call and access resources they need and ask questions. The call takers don't always know the answer, but they do provide that information to us so that we can get them the answers they're looking for. We've also stood up a disaster recovery center. I apologize that the text is unreadable for you there, but a lot of the resources that are there today, we're focused on getting people in a good spot. We know that we've received calls that we feel are a little distressing. We want to make sure people have access to mental health support, to some wellness checks if they've have some scratches or have injured themselves due to some of the cleanup that they're working through or the impact of the incident. They can go there and receive some basic services. Additionally, we're handing out sandbags, bottled water, we could sign people up there for financial assistance. We will, starting tomorrow, be having prepared meals there. So anybody who is really busy with cleanup or unable to provide for themselves can go and pick up a meal for themselves, and we know that they're being fed. We also have some signups for mud and muck out. So we will have crews, volunteer teams coming into the community to help with cleanup. It takes too long, I know, as usual, to stand that up, but we have made those connections and people will be coming in, helping with mud and muck and also just cleaning properties and homes. So the COAD services, I think, are hoping to fill that void. Some other services that Doña County teams and others are helping with, the animal controls, providing sheltering for pets as needed. The vector control has been fogging, and I don't understand exactly the technology, but they're doing larva sighting. So making sure that they're addressing things before mosquitoes start becoming a problem in the community. Also, we've got some roll-off dumpsters that have been delivered into the community today. We haven't dropped a whole bunch of dumpsters yet because we want to make sure that where we put them, they're not going to be floating away. And so we've kind of strategically placed them so that they're centralized. We do have a plan for adding more dumpsters for citizens to use in that area, working with our South Central partners. Additionally, as I said, the mud and muck crews are coming in over the weekend. Those are volunteer teams that are just amazing who are going to help us clean up to the best of their ability as well. I didn't mention, but we have had some for-profit entities that have joined the COAD. They are free of charge, helping residents without asking for anything. Would like to recognize that they are coming in and helping as well. And really just the resilience of that community is amazing. The responders and just the community together. Our state has offered a significant amount of support to us through many channels and our neighboring counties and lots of others that I want to make sure you're aware of, that they've spoken to my office. So at this point, I stand for questions, or Stephen can come back up and discuss further the disaster declaration.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. So just really quickly, I do have a couple questions. So great to see the muck out program is going to start this weekend. And you did talk about how there is still a lot of standing water and it's all about drainage right now. What does the next 12, 24, and 36 hours look like as far as the water levels and moving that water out? Do we have any idea of what this is going to look like?
Our weather dictates a lot, and so the ability to move the water is really limited by that drain. John could probably talk to you a lot more about the water flow. I can tell you that in our response period, we talked with our subject matter experts, John, Elephant Butte Irrigation District, who've been in those, seen this water flow before, and have they saw that we were going to have a challenge moving water. The waterway is moving as fast as it can, and so I think it's really difficult to anticipate timeframes and to ask people to continue to wait. But unfortunately, if we continue to get any kind of rainfall, that's going to complicate things worse. But I think we will see the water slowly dissipate as it moves out. We would be able to, in any low-lying spots, Elephant Butte Irrigation District has offered to help pump out of low-lying areas if needed. But I'll defer to John if he has some other information there.
Thank you.
So in terms of the drain is moving, but it's really slow. There's a lot of muck and debris that went into the drain. The irrigation district has made sure that the culvert crossings are open, but the drain itself is going to move slow. It's also still receiving water from some upstream dams that were not part of the community, but they release their water into the drain. So there will be continued flow of water for some time from those dams. And so that's pretty normal for any event that happens. But I would expect those dams to be empty probably by Sunday or Monday. So I would expect to see water still flowing through the drain from those dams until then. We're already beginning to see water receding in the drain itself. And so it's beginning to get to a place where there may be a chance to pump some more of that water into the drain. But it's slow going.
All right, thank you, John. So really quickly, we do have quite a bit of rain coming in over the weekend and next week. So with that being said, and I understand the sediment and there's a lot of debris in there, is there going to be a time between now and this incoming storm to get those cleaned out and moving faster? Or are we just kind of in this weird holding pattern?
So it's a great question. We're obviously going to be getting directly with EBID, see what their schedule is for seeing what they can clean out. We obviously need to get our structures cleaned out as well. It's going to take us some time to get contractors, get the purchase orders done and get it done. At the earliest, it'll be next week before we can actually start moving sediment, and that's if it's dry enough. One of the problems is in those ponding areas is to try to get equipment in there, it's too wet and the equipment actually sinks. So we have to wait for a little bit of drying until we can do much. We can do some, but we're pretty limited until it dries out a little bit.
Okay. So just a last couple comments and thoughts. Just when it comes to the community, with the rain incoming, what I would really like to see from the county perspective is that we make sure that those community centers are open Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, just in case anything does happen overnight. And, I can't predict that, but just making sure that that's taken care of for them, and maybe even the Mesquite Center or a neighboring community, just to make sure that we have a place for people to go if it does get that bad. But also, can you go back to the 211 slide? Just leave that up for people. I know that this is a really great resource, so thank you for all these partners that have joined and getting this done. We were talking about this today during our animal services meeting. I know that we have several animals in our court hold facility from using the 211 number, so that's amazing that people are using these resources. So if we can just leave that up for people that are tuning in online. Commissioners, any other questions? Yes, Commissioner
Yeah, I have a
Reynolds.
couple questions. You said the mud and muck crew are going to be out this weekend. Are they going to be removing stuff from driveways, patios, inside houses, outside houses? What are they going to be doing?
Yes, sir. We have a variety of crews coming in that can do a little bit of each. So we have some for-profit companies who are volunteering service to help with big equipment that can move and clear driveways. They're limited just because there's so much need and they're one entity. If we have other entities that would like to participate in that, they can contact OEM so they can become part of the OEM, the COAD. But the mud and muck crews that are coming in specifically for clean out are going to help with homes. They're looking at access to homes and the insides of homes so that people can resume a somewhat normal life. I would imagine that our for-profit partners can really help with the access to driveways and things, whereas the mud and muck crews will focus on making sure the home is livable and that they can get in and out safely. We do have some access and functional needs folks that are going to need to have that access. They're going to be prioritized first with the mud and muck crews, but we have a robust team, so I'm hoping that that goes as quickly as reasonably possible.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Yes, sir.
I might want help.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, with you mentioned that there's a lot of individuals in the community that use a ramp to get in and out of their home. Have we made contact with them continually, making sure that they do have access to get in and out, and or they've left the home to get services? I know that you talked about that briefly, but can you just hit on it a little bit more if people are experiencing that kind of situation, or a neighbor?
I feel like we have a very resilient community that is used to doing things for themselves. And so I've heard a lot of stories of neighbors helping neighbors. If we're aware of it and we can assist with that need, then we are absolutely prioritizing assistance to those folks first. We want to make sure that particularly those that are vulnerable are taken care of. And so, like I said, I feel like the community is largely filling that void right now. We have had a few calls specifically through the 211 about people who are unable to get out of their homes, and so connecting with them individually. Our resource center is also taking on some information. Anyway, we're finding out about people who need that, who are vulnerable. Our teams will work with them. We have started that and we'll continue with that.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner
Mr.
Gameros.
Chairman,
Oh, one moment, Commissioner Sanchez. Commissioner Gameros had a question, then we'll go to you, sir.
Thank you. So I've had, obviously it's in my district, so I'm having a lot of phone calls, emails, and texts. And I'm having a lot of people calling me and texting me about the fire station in Anthony, that they're going over to get some sacks for sand, but that it's closed. And so they're not able to do that.
So our fire crews are actually helping with wellness checks at the Disaster Resource Center. And we're providing sandbag giveaway, both filled and unfilled today at the community center there. I don't believe that will extend into tomorrow, and so the crew should be back at the fire station tomorrow. We can locate sandbags in both locations if you think that's desirable by the community. We were trying to just centralize all of those resources to make it easier for people who were seeking assistance.
Okay, so just for clarification, tomorrow the fire station should be open and should be able to have those sandbags ready for people.
That is my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then the other question, the other issue that I have as well is I've had where people are calling the county here, the county office, I guess, and they were asking for some help because there were certain individuals that were stuck in their homes, an elderly woman that was disabled. The daughter was trying to get her out, but was having difficulty, and so she called the county, and she was told by somebody here in the county that since it was a private road, they couldn't do anything for her. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen, that maybe we can make up a makeshift type of script stating that if an individual calls and regardless whether they're on a private road or not, that they are given the non-emergency number so they can call that number so that way they can get service instead of just, they weren't even given that information. And they weren't the only people that was happening to as well.
I apologize for the misinformation, and we'll work with the county teams to ensure that messaging is clarified for residents. The start of every emergency is often not as clean as we would like it, but we'll clean it up now.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then yesterday when I was driving home, I was driving around the community to see, and I was, right before I was getting to Swanwick Road, right? You couldn't even drive on Swanwick Road at all. But before that, you could see all these properties that were filled with water. And, they were up to people's knees. And the reason I know that is because I saw people literally walking out there in this filthy water and had tons of debris in there. And obviously I understand that we don't have the capacity right now, the pumps to pump out that water. I saw that people couldn't even drive their vehicles out as well because they're stuck in there in that water. Even if they wanted to try to drive out, they would have to, if they had any water galoshes, to put that on. But if not, they'd have to go out there barefoot, get in their vehicle and put their shoes on and then try to get out of that water. So, to me, that's a concern as well. But, I heard that you were going door to door knocking and seeing if people need anything. I know people were having to cancel doctor's appointments because they weren't able to, get out or with the situation that was happening. My concern is with the pollution of that water, and people are in that water. And I just kind of feel like some people just need to be maybe we need to put some education out there. If they're going to continue this door-to-door knocking, maybe that's what they can say, please do not walk in these waters. They're contaminated with poo, so they know why, what it's, what it has, and that they can get an infection. So, that's one of my concerns as well.
Sure. We have offered to anyone who says they've had access issues leaving the property because it's inundated with water, some support. Many residents don't want to leave, and I understand that desire to not want to leave your property. But we'll continue with the education and provide that through some of our community outreach. As we finish up damage assessments, we can really focus more on providing that information to the residents.
I appreciate that. And then just for clarification, because I did hear this spoken about, is the private roads issue as well. So if we were to pass this declaration, you know, I'm getting a lot of people about the private roads, and, you know, I did hear that we would be able to, I guess it's grading the road, right? Not being able to pave it or anything like that. I just want people out there to know that live on these private roads. If we pass this declaration, you know, what can they see in those roads?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gameros, so our road section of the Department of Public Works had discussion among their team. Dan Sombrano asked them, how would you guys like to do this? Would you like to go ahead and do this in teams? They voted. Everyone is going to be out tomorrow morning to work on the private roads. So it's going to be big. Mm-hmm. They can only get to the ones that they can get to. Roads that are still underwater, they can't do a whole lot on. It's just going to be to make sure people can drive on the roads. We're not paving them by any stretch of the imagination. But that is what this disaster declaration will allow them to do. Emergency, life, and safety adjustments to our critical infrastructure. As Amanda indicated, we've got private contractors who will be able to assist also. The road crew will be back out next week as the water continues to recede to get to what they can't get to. Dan indicated to me earlier in the confirmation briefing, they will focus first on bypassing any obstacles. So if there is a sewer manhole in the middle of the road that's sticking up 2 feet, they're just gonna get a clear path around it first. And then they will come back in later with base course or whatever's necessary to build up so that that is more passable. But they expect for what is accessible tomorrow with every one of our crew members out there to be able to make a big difference.
Thank you, I really do appreciate that.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions. One related to utilities. Are there any other outages, electrical, or any issues with fresh water within the area, to the area affected?
Commissioner Sanchez, Amanda Bowen here. We've spoken with El Paso Electric pretty regularly. Yesterday morning, there was about 60 residents who didn't have power. That was rectified after they were able to make a path through to their infrastructure. But that was rectified probably by around noon yesterday. All residents in the area have power now that we're aware of, and that came direct from El Paso Electric. Spoke with the Lower Rio Grande Water District, who said that most of their issues and concerns came from exposed lines, and that they've been working with NMDOT to clear up those, to get those lines covered back up as they do road repairs. That's primarily along Las Alturas and along Stern Drive, apologize, the two frontage roads there. And he had no outages to report.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I don't know if this would be necessarily for Mr. Lopez or Mr. Gwynn, but I know Mr. Gwynn had talked about trying to get contractors out to help clean the areas. I don't know if there's already a open or a standing purchase order that is utilized by the Flood Commission, or if not, I guess the question was going to be, or is, with I'm assuming that this we're going to declare this disaster or approve of this disaster declaration. does this declaration help us expedite any PO processes so that we can get funds going and moving to the areas that need the most help?
Commissioner Sanchez, John Gwynn, yes, it does. We do have on-calls that have already all offered to help so they could get on the jobs very quickly. The declaration definitely helps with getting purchase orders and those things in effect. But these guys are already on contract, so it's just a matter of getting a task order to them and getting them moving. So it should happen pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. Any other commissioner questions?
Mr. Chair, Stephen Lopez again, Assistant County Manager. Just a few things I'd like to cover before you start considering the vote on the disaster declaration. Again, really we want to emphasize to people, this is still an active disaster area. If you don't have to be there, we encourage you not to be there. As has been pointed out, the water is not safe, and we don't know what it's done, especially under foundations of things like mobile homes. We have had reports of sinkholes in people's yards. Our utilities department responded to one just earlier today. So again, please, people that are out there, be careful and be respectful of your neighbors and people who are out there trying to work. As Amanda mentioned, we're not the only ones trying to pump right now. EBID is trying to get water out of fields and into what normally supplies them with water, the canals, so that we can kind of pull the water further down away from the homes and the community. On the night of this disaster, there were dozens of those response agencies. Amanda showed you the slide earlier. Dozens and dozens of people that were out there that went door to door in this waist-deep water. We really need to recognize those people, and that includes our utility crews that were out there in waist-deep water at an electrical panel, making sure they were pushing that reset switch on those pumps as they overheated. So we really have a great county team. They've done very well under trying circumstances. This was, believe it or not a 1,000-year storm event. This was only about a 100 to 200-year storm event, which means the likelihood that something like this can happen again in the future is pretty high. We will absolutely need to take a look at what we do in this area and design a system. John Gwynn and I have talked earlier about the options we have. You can see with the Lily Pond flood control structure, 100% at capacity and full of sediment. We're gonna have to do that in more places. We're gonna have to dig deeper, and some of that's gonna require cooperation from the federal government because they consider these federal waters because they're supposed to be going into the Rio Grande. It's gonna require something we've never done before because this is a spot that is at the same height as the river. We can't rely on gravity flow to get the water out. That's why it's so slow. One of the reasons it's so slow moving down that drain. And the drain has choke points at every road that goes over it. There's just one 3-foot, maybe 4-foot culvert pipe going underneath. So even though the drain is 12 feet deep in some spots, it hits these choke points, which slows it down every time there's a river. So we're gonna be bringing to you some long-term solution recommendations. Unfortunately, they're not gonna be fast and they're not going to be cheap. Start thinking in terms of $100 million. But we are seeing flooding hit the Vado area. We saw it in 2021. We saw it this year. We know it's gonna be back, especially as people have built homes in these floodplains. So we really do need to look at a long-term solution for this area in particular. And it needs to be coordinated. People have asked, why don't we just adopt the private roads? Won't that fix the problem? We can then pave the roads. Well, that'll actually mean if we pave them to standard, the road's higher than the properties. That then forces more water and traps more water in the homes. What we need to do is do the flood control, and then when we do put in roads or adopt roads, we can put in drainage that gets the water to the ponds, and then we need to put in some really big water pumps. because we've got to pump it to the river. We can't just rely on gravity. And it's done in other parts of the country. I've had the opportunity, we'll call it, to be in Houston when a hurricane hit. And I've had the ability to stand next to one of those 4-foot forced main water pumps, pumping water out of downtown Houston. They're impressive, they work, but even with that, we can't just put it in and forget it because they have to be exercised regularly, which means we got to work with EBID to let us use some water every year to exercise the pumps. So again, this is going to be a long-term effort. We do think we have solutions moving forward. Don't think this is the last time you're going to hear from us on this issue. We will absolutely be back before the board. I also want to just, while we're on this slide, point out one thing. If you look at the logo in the left-hand upper portion of the screen, that's the Southern New Mexico COAD. That's, as Amanda said, the umbrella organization. That is Doña County. That is, there are only two COADs, or this COAD and a VOAD, which covers supposedly all of New Mexico, but really it's just northern New Mexico. That was a local effort here. You notice those are all local agencies that are up there on the screen. This is really neighbors helping neighbors. And as Amanda said, I'm not going to miss a recruiting opportunity. Anybody else who would like to join the COAD, please, we are taking names. So with that, we're asking for your support in passing this resolution. As noted, this will not only free up our crews to be able to do some emergency work, it will provide some potential individual disaster assistance and something we've never done before. It will, for people who need to get permits, construction permits to make repairs in this area, we will be waiving permit fees in this resolution.
Thank you. So that's the presentation. We're done with that?
That is the presentation.
Okay, commissioners, really quickly, we have the resolution that we're going to read through. Are we wanting to read through the resolution, then allow public comment? What are you all wanting to do? We also have the Lieutenant Governor here today. What are your thoughts on how you want to move this process?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Sanchez?
might I suggest that we, maybe you want to start with a motion to approve, and then maybe you could read through it. And then we follow up with any additional comments or amendments or anything else we want to address at that point.
Okay, let's do that. Open up the floor and then we can go from there.
And Mr. Chair, if I may make a suggestion, since we have the Lieutenant Governor here, and I know he has a busy schedule and probably moving from area to area, if we could be so kind as to allow him to speak a few words. But in lieu of that, I make a motion to approve the resolution.
I second it.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. With that being said, Commissioner Gometos, would you like to read the resolution? And then we'll get some public comment going.
Okay, thank you.
And if you need to trade off, just give me a wink and I'll pick up where you left off.
Take some deep breaths. Okay, a resolution finding that a state of emergency exists in Doña County due to flooding caused by severe weather events. Whereas all counties in the state of New Mexico are granted the powers necessary and proper to provide for the safety and preserve the health of the inhabitants of the county pursuant to 4-37-1 NMSA 1978. And whereas pursuant to All Hazard Emergency Management Act 12-10-12-1 through 12-10-10 NMSA 1978, a majority of the members of the governing body of a county may, upon a finding that a disaster or emergency exists which affects life or property in the county, request the governor to declare a state of emergency and provide financial assistance. And whereas on June 30th, 2025, weather events consisting of torrential rain and thunderstorms moved through northern Doña County, causing flooding of households in Rincon. And whereas on July 22nd and 23rd, 2025, weather events consisting of torrential rain and thunderstorms moved through southern Doña County, causing extensive flooding in southern Doña County, including the communities of Vado and Del Cerro, as well as nearby neighborhoods. And whereas this flooding has had significant impact on the lives of residents, to include people being displaced from their homes, property damage, and damage to infrastructure, including roads and flood control structures. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Doña Ana County, by virtue of the authority provided in the All Hazard Emergency Management Act, does hereby find that due to extreme weather events causing flooding and damage, a state of disaster exists in Doña Ana County. And be it further resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Doña Ana County does hereby direct the county manager to take the following actions. 1, request Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham declare a state of emergency and provide financial assistance pursuant to 12-10-17 NMSA 1978. The county utilize emergency procurement rules as necessary pursuant to 13-1-127 NMSA 1978. Number 3, waive construction permit fees associated with repair and recovery efforts. And number 4, establish a disaster housing program for residents with the following criteria. A, for homeowners who are indigent and who experience a confirmed total loss of their primary residence due to a disaster declared by this board, a grant of $5,000 per household for the purpose of obtaining safe housing. B, for renters who are indigent and experience a confirmed long-term inability to continue living in their residential rental property due to a disaster declared by this board, a grant of $1,000 per household for the purpose of obtaining a new place to rent. C, for homeowners and renters who are indigent and experience a confirmed temporary loss of use of their primary residence due to a disaster declared by this board, a grant of $500 per household to cover emergency housing. D, for the purpose of this program, the definition of indigent shall be that the person can normally support themselves and their dependents on present income and liquid assets available to them, to include any normally received outside support, but are unable to pay for emergency housing expenses caused by the disaster. Subsequent receipt of insurance payments that were not available to the resident at the time disaster housing assistance was needed shall not disqualify access to assistance, nor require repayment. E, for purposes of this program, a confirmed temporary or total loss means that a damage assessment has been conducted with photo documentation that shows sufficient damage to the residents to make it unsafe for either immediate or long-term living, or the residence is inaccessible due to the floodwaters or debris that prevent safe access. F, a disaster housing fund shall be created by transferring $500,000 from the hospital lease fund, and the county manager shall authorize expenditures. G, the county may contract with a community partners to assist with the administration of this program under the supervision of the Office of Emergency Management, with reasonable administration fees allowable. Adopted this 24th day of July 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome.
Do we want to allow for public comment at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Lieutenant Governor, would you like to join us? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, County Manager Andrews, thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. You know, you demonstrate the public service aspect of the work that we do during difficult times And you truly demonstrate that leadership isn't about a title or a position, but rather about action. And by you declaring today an emergency meeting coming together really shows the people from Doña County that you're here to support them. I read through the declaration and I thought it was well worded. Matter of fact, I took a couple pictures, sent it already up to Santa Fe. Now you still have to go through the process if it's approved to make sure that that's submitted. But I come here today specifically to show my support for this emergency declaration. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, for bringing this forward, because it's a long process, as we know. But by your action today, you're able to move this forward in a way that provides and releases some funds that are going to be very necessary for the people of the community. Para la gente de Distrito 2, they're in good hands with you, Commissioner Gameros. And hearing the questions and you driving around and seeing in your district what your people are needing, I appreciate you mentioning those experiences with the commission. And knowing that even though that it may not be in each of your districts, that it's in our county and that you're working together to assist those people in need. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I can remember my first disaster that took place as Lieutenant Governor was right here in La Union. And when we saw families that lost everything, I can still remember the Aguirre family who lost everything and their home was filled with sand. And it took a long while to get them the resources that they needed. But this is just an example of acting quickly with all the volunteers, with all those emergency providers that are out there to assist. You're taking the action that's necessary. And why this is important is it's important to recognize that as we release some of these funds, that you have our full support. I spoke with the governor, with the governor's office as well, and recognizing that we're expecting this declaration to come forward so that we can move quickly to provide that support, as we know that there is still standing water. And with the standing water, it makes it difficult to give an assessment to see where we're at to meet that threshold. But I'm confident with over 600 homes that has been reported have been damaged, that we will meet that threshold. But in times like this, communication is absolutely critical. And I want to give a shout out to Amanda, to her team. Stephen, it wasn't long ago when you drove me around La Union. And the team that you have here that provides that communication to provide the support that we need right here locally, but making sure at the state level that we're able to move forward. And because the communication has been there from this team, is we've been already been able to communicate with FEMA so that FEMA will come down and send that team to help with the assessment. And why that is critical is because what that assessment does is it gives us the opportunity to also add this disaster declaration to our federal disaster declaration. And that would be critical because as I speak here right now, we have floods that are taking place in Rio Doso again. We have flood warnings that are happening right now in San Miguel. And by adding Doña County, hopefully to that national disaster declaration, frees up flexibility as well from the private roads that you were talking about, or some assistance that we're not able to do at the local or the state level. That gives us that flexibility. So I urge each one of you to support this declaration, this emergency declaration that'll come us to the state. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to share that publicly.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Well said. And honestly, to echo on the communication, every single state legislator that has been calling us and talking to us about resources and what's going on has commended the OEM team and the county team and the employees for just keeping them in the loop every single step to where they are helping bring these resources to the community when they're getting those calls. They are so appreciative of your work and everything that we're doing here. They felt empowered to help spread the information, and we haven't seen that in a really long time in our community. So thank you, like over and over again, thank you. You've made it a lot easier being up here today, knowing that we've done what we need to do to get that information out to them. So thank you. If any other member of the public wants to address us today, please do come forward. We are discussing the emergency declaration today, so please do come forward if you would like. You're not required to. Okay, yes, ma'am, come on up to the podium, please.
Hello, my name is Claudia Durham, and I live in the Vado area. I live on Tarin Road. I've been in that residence since 2006. The one thing that concerns me and my neighbors and probably other people in the neighborhood is that drainage canal, maybe for the past 10, maybe 15 years, there hasn't been any maintenance. In the past, we would see, they dig it out, so deepen it, but since there hasn't been any water running through, it's been used for people to go back and forth, especially since they built the Vado Speedway. We have a lot of people traversing back and forth through that canal. It's getting lower and lower. So there's, of course, water's not going to be out there. It used to be at least 15 feet deep. Now it's not even that. Another thing too is there used to be maintenance in there, and now it's full of trash. It's full of mesquite trees that have grown in there. So when you go and you look at it, of course, the water's flowing slowly, but there's a lot of trash, a lot of debris, a lot of dead branches. So it hasn't been maintained. So, our concern is with the oncoming rains, it's still there, it's still standing. It's really not flowing. What's gonna happen again? And it's not just this coming week, but in the future, because there hasn't been any maintenance to that ditch for at least more than 15 years. So that's just our concern as a neighborhood, that maybe a lot of this could have been prevented had there not been so much trash, sofas, tires, mattresses, dead trees. And then just right in the middle of the canal, there's mesquite trees growing, which weren't there before. So that's our concern as a community also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And if you would, please put down your name and any contact information so that way we can follow up with you. Thank you.
Hi, Chairman and Commission members. Thank you for this meeting. Thank you for what you're doing for our community. A couple points from my perspective as a member of the board at the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico. I just wanted to say publicly, and you might have said it earlier, I walked in a little bit late, but we have a fund set up thanks to our team. They're always on top of it. Such a great professional team that we have over at the Community Foundation. If any of the public want to provide any funds to help out on this issue, along with Ruidoso, those funds, that fund is opened up and they can go to our website. And then speaking on behalf of El Paso Electric, who I work for, if there's anything that we can do volunteer-wise and the like, we are here to support our community, our neighbors, and if there is something that we can do, we'd love to be there for you also. So on those 2 points, thank you again for being here, and thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Amanda Bowen is going to hold you to that and put you to work here in a little bit. 40 people did hear that. Any other public comment today? Come on up, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Michelle Fierro. I actually come from Las Palmeras rural community, and we were also hit by floods. Right now, we would like to know if we can get assistance for a better flood structure. There's a levee in that community, but it gets filled, so now all the other properties get severely damaged. And right now, we would like if we can get assistance with that and with trash roll-offs. We ended up with a lot of debris and trash, and see what we do.
If you can also please put your name and your number, and actually if you'll write your address as well on the book, we'll have someone reach out and start having that conversation as well. I'm getting head nods, so that's a good thing. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, if I may. Ms. Fierro, I didn't quite hear what area of Doña County
It's between Berino and Anthony. It's Las Palmeras Rural
Las
Community.
Palmeras. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment today? Yeah, please join us.
Hi, my name is Jesus Nolasco. I live on Vado on Coors Road, and which is close to where that what's it called, like a ponding area where it over flooded. And then my dad lives on Mosquito Court, so it was first flooding to our road, to our area, and then on my house it was like knee high, and then I guess when it bursted the canal or the ditch further up the road, that's when it went into Mosquito Court and Crazy Horse and all those roads nearby. Then they had water, which they still do. We're still pumping some water. We're trying to pump it to the storm drain just because it was so close to getting into the homes. And since there's gonna be rains, want to go ahead and clear some of that up in case it rises up again. And I mean, I don't mean to shoot anyone down, but I haven't seen any of the people the agencies that were named. I know that they have a lot of places to be, but we would at least like some help. We've been renting pumps. Everything's been coming out of our own pocket. I mean, a suggestion I have later on would maybe be some help on getting some storm drains, at least on those roads, because that's happened before on 2001, and they said they were gonna put storm drains. Never happened. I was younger back then, so I don't know a lot of the details, but I mean, that's usually where it's waist high. Last time it took like 2 weeks to pump water out, and I think they even had to dig some sort of trench. I don't remember, but this time it's just been like 4 pumps, which does nothing because we have to pump out all the water that levels off to the other streets. But I mean, I think it's considered a private road, but even storm draining private roads would help relieve a lot of this flooding just because it levels off to the other streets that aren't private roads. But yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up.
Thank you, sir. If you can also just sign in as well and get that information. Any other public comment? Okay. Commissioners, any discussion on the resolution?
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the entire county team. I know that it's been a difficult couple of days, and you all are doing exceptional work, so I'm very proud of you. And I'm happy that we have such a strong team. But second of all, in just looking at the numbers that are being put forth in this resolution, I'm concerned, especially for number C, when we're quoting for homeowners and renters who are indigent and experience confirmed temporary loss of use of primary residence due to a disaster being declared by this board, a grant of $500 per household to cover emergency housing. Well, I've looked at Airbnbs just because I travel in hotel rooms, and the average cost of a hotel room is a little over $100. And if we're looking at a renter or a homeowner who has experienced a confirmed temporary loss of use, that is equal to maybe 2 days of temporary housing. And so, fellow commissioners, I'm asking to maybe consider that amount and increasing it, because $500 is only going to cover 2 or 3 days, and we don't know how long this area will be impacted. And we're anticipating rain in the next few days. And so that's further going to stress not only the flood areas, but the loss of a home. So maybe looking at these numbers, the 500, the 1,000 for temporary housing, I think that might be a wise move to increase those amounts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have a suggestion for the amounts to be increased to?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Just looking at perhaps an Airbnb or a hotel, if you multiply $100 by 30 days, we're looking at $3,000.
Okay. So which one are you wanting to change?
Well, I'm looking specifically at C right now, maybe increasing that from $500 to $3,000. And on B, from $1,000 per household. I think of parents that have more than one child, maybe have 3 or 4 children. If we're looking at the expense of renting a hotel room, that would be 2 hotel rooms. And so maybe, in my mind, I'm thinking of at least $6,000 on that.
Okay. And then are you wanting to change 4A?
And I suppose this is a question for Mr. Lopez. If I may, Mr. Lopez, on 4A, so if we're looking at a confirmed total loss, does that equate to 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, 364 days, based on your experience on La Union floods? I recall it took months, and maybe 50,000 on that. I'm not sure. I would really like your opinion on that.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, you are correct. It did take several months for people to find long-term housing, which is unfortunately very typical in disasters that affect large areas. We came to the $5,000 calculation based on average-ish rent prices for 4 months, assuming they could rent a house for 4 months in order to relocate a family. If the commission would like to go longer, we certainly can adjust it. It's just a matter of how much of the county's funds you would like to put into the fund and how much you would like to offer. The intent is not to replace their dwelling, so 50,000 sounds like it might be too high. But if you would like us to utilize the average rental price of a home in Doña County for 6 months, that's an easy calculation. We can look that up and utilize it. It's just up to the board.
Thank you. And I think this is really unique, and you stated it earlier in passing almost. No other county or municipality has ever done this. So this is the first time that anyone's ever offered emergency funding for homeowners to find emergency housing.
Mr. Chair.
So this is really unique, and give me one moment. I believe that the ladies are calculating right now for us. But go ahead, Commissioner Reynolds.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a recommendation that what we do is we try to get the housing, as Mr. Lopez has mentioned, for item 4A, up to a 6-month rental, whatever that is. I'd also suggest that we do the 1,000 for item section B, that we calculate that for, I think this one is currently for what, for 30 days. I'd suggest that we put that one for 60 days, whatever that is. And then I would like to take the item C and also recommend that we do that one for up to 60 days. I'd like to see what those numbers are.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Reynolds, if we, I'm going to out myself here in front of ACM Macias. According to AI, the average rental price for a home in Doña County right now is $1,450 a month. And so if we utilize that, 6 months would be $8,700, and 60 days or 2 months would be $2,900. So very close to what the vice chair was recommending on the 3,000.
Stephen, can you please repeat that one more time? Thank you, sir.
No, I will not. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so you're saying 2 months would be 2,900
Correct.
and 6 months would be 8,700?
That is correct.
Okay. So what about the other two, the B and C? What would those be?
So C, I thought you asked also for also for 60 days. So if B and C are both for 60-day amounts, they would both be $2,900. If C was a temporary loss, we may want to make that only a single month. A single month is $1,450. So if we want to use round numbers, I'd recommend then we do $1,500 for the short term, that we do $3,000 for the medium term, and that we do $9,000 for the long term.
Okay.
Does that fit within our budget?
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I'm not, I'm just doing some off the top, and I know I'm not there, so I'm not privy to maybe some of the details. But just if we go up to $3,000 and say if the numbers are correct that we have 600 homes and say they all qualify, that's nearly $2 million.
That, Mr. Chair, that is
1.8
correct.
million actually is what the number would be if all qualified and we paid out $3,000. So I would, I know this is a complete new process here and we're trying to figure out how this works and completely understand the points of my fellow commissioners. I believe we may want to, in my mind, we should maybe look at putting up some guardrails on this, because while I absolutely want to help everybody that we can, this can, I think us replacing everything and doing this all at once right now and at this point in time, I think we should look shorter term, and if we need to, we can extend it in the future. But I just want to make sure that in terms of the budget that, this can add up very, very quickly, and just want to make sure that, as we're learning through this, we're doing this in a thoughtful manner where we can try to balance the needs of the community with, the fiscal responsibility for our budget.
okay.
Mr. Chair, and responding to Commissioner Sanchez, yes, there is absolutely concern over the impact to the budget. The 600 homes that were initially impacted that was a calculation based on the homes that had power loss from El Paso Electric that they were able to track and measure that first night. Then once the power came back on, it was down to about 300 homes due to inaccessible roadways, including the shutting down of the frontage road on the interstate. We believe we are likely looking at houses with actual damage or people who still can't get home, probably being in the vicinity of 100 to 200 homes. And that may, again, we can't necessarily replace all their belongings and everything else. The intent of this program is to provide them safe housing, which is under the exception for indigent in the anti-donation clause, what we can legally do. So that may be something you want to consider also in the calculation, that we're not trying to replace everything for them. We're trying to provide them, when they are temporarily indigent, a safe place to live for a little while. I do also want to mention, Amanda's been throwing softballs over here at me. This is not the only source of funding people will have. The American Red Cross also has disaster funding they will provide. And as was previously mentioned, our main community partner for donations is the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico. They will also be providing funding to these people. And anybody who wishes to help other people out that were involved in this disaster, we're encouraging, do not try to donate clothing. It's hard to get people the right sizes. It's hard to get people things that they want to wear. Donate money to the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico, and they can get people money to get the things that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. In not loudly chatting with Commissioner Gameros, but whispering back and forth, and also in agreeing with Commissioner Sanchez, perhaps having a timeline of maybe 60 days, and if that person, or maybe whatever the timeline this commission comes up with, to have the temporary help for maybe 30 days, then 60 days, and if an application needs to be submitted again, then there's a pathway for that. And then also stating an amount for up to a certain amount of money. And that way folks don't think, oh, I'm just gonna go get $10,000 right now, and having paperwork submitted that is appropriate.
Well, and also with this being tied to qualifying for indigent funding, there will be a bottleneck on that anyway. At what point, Stephen, does FEMA kick in with housing?
Mr. Chair, the FEMA question is a great question, and I can't say right now because of uncertainty at the federal level regarding FEMA's future. What I can answer is historically, FEMA has provided for a total loss of a home between $9,000 and $12,000, and it typically pays out 18 months to 2 years after the loss has occurred. So people have no means for assistance in that time. But the qualifying for that is very difficult, even under the best of circumstances. People that qualify for that FEMA funding have to prove ownership of the property, so renters are not covered. They also have to have the deed in their name, and some of these properties we know historically around New Mexico, that has been one of the biggest challenges. It was grandma's house, they passed it down to their son or daughter, who then passed it down to their son or daughter, and to avoid probate and expenses, people never got it retitled, and therefore they do not qualify for assistance through FEMA. That is something that Northern New Mexico has been challenged with in particular over the last couple of years. So the final factor there on FEMA is when individual assistance is awarded, it requires a very form-intensive process, and not everybody in Doña County nor across New Mexico is comfortable completing some of those forms, nor has the identification necessary to get emergency housing.
So with that being said, how intensive is it going to be for us to have our process?
Mr. Chair, fortunately, Doña County has a history of running an indigent care program.
We sure do.
And as a result, we plan on mirroring that as close as possible. But as you notice there on item G, we are looking at partnering with perhaps the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico to run the program. That means that we don't have to insert a lot of the red tape that typically governments insert. Right now, for us to pay an individual money, they have to register as a vendor in our system. They have to provide tax forms and everything else. We would like to avoid that by utilizing a community partner so that this can be a much quicker process.
Okay, and can you just repeat that again, that this is for every resident of Doña County and that there is no documentation needed for permanent residency versus non-permanent residency?
Mr. Chair, the county will not be getting any records related to anybody's documentation or anything else. If they can prove that they resided in that location and they were either paying rent or owned the property, and as a primary residence, they would qualify.
Beautiful. So everyone qualifies.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
before we make the amendment for how much we want to talk about, there's another question I have. we had a lady come up and say that she also experienced some problems in her area, and there's anticipated problems there. Have we included additional areas in this by default?
It does say on the fourth whereas, as well as nearby neighborhoods.
Okay.
So I would consider that a nearby neighborhood.
That works, right?
Agreed.
Okay.
We're all
Want to have the
family here in
flexibility
Doñana.
to address all the issues,
Everyone's
all
a
the people.
neighbor.
we need.
Okay. With that being said, if we are wanting to look at the amounts, now would be the time to do it. If not, we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
I think we should have a recommendation from county manager on what he thinks would be reasonable and also fit into our budget.
Reasonable. And that word means a lot of different things to different people right now. It's, we don't take this lightly as we all sit here and we're not out in the water. So I tend to agree with the recommendations that Stephen Lopez presented a few moments ago. Without any other board consideration, I'd like to move forward as proposed.
And Mr. Chair, just to confirm, that's the $1,500, the $3,000, and the $9,000?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Okay.
But that would be the 9,000 would be for 6 months, though.
That would be for someone whose structure is totally destroyed. That would provide them up to 6 months.
Okay.
That would be for a,
Okay, right. So, and then do we want to cap that to something that's reasonable for the budget to say we can do this up to 500,000 or $1 million, or what is our limit there? I think we should put a cap on it just because, so we just protect our budget. And then if we need to revisit it to allocate more funds, that we actually would have to come back to the board to do so.
That's a great point as I'm sitting here messaging with the finance team that I don't see in the room. Sorry to put you on the spot. Ms. Deb Weir, any thoughts on that since finance is under your umbrella?
I know that they were looking at between 500,000 and $1 million as the recommendation. And certainly if you started with a lower amount, we could always revisit it as those funds are expended and we have a better idea of what the actual needs will be.
Okay. So I think that we would make an amended motion to adopt the numbers that you said, which are how much again?
So that would change C to $1,500, B to $3,000, and A to $9,000.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to amend this resolution to reflect those numbers and also to put a current cap of $500,000 on it.
Second.
okay, so that would be just for the record, Brandy, so let me help you out. 4A, we'll be changing the $5,000 per household to $9,000 per household. For 4B, we will be changing the $1,000 per household to a total of $3,000 per household. And then for item 4C, we will be changing the $500 per household to $1,500 per household. And then for F, on the $500,000, what was the recommendation? Just keeping it at the 500,000. Okay, and
Keep it
then
500,000 for now.
perfect. So we do have an amendment on the floor to change those. Commissioners, do we have any other comments on the amendment?
Chair, I do have a comment.
Yes, please.
On this. So with amendment, I'm fine with the amounts, but on here, like 4A, it doesn't state whether it's going to be for 6 months. It just says a grant of $9,000.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, that calculation was for a 6-month rental. It's not that we're paying for them for 6 months. They get the lump sum and that goes towards the housing for, that was just the calculation, monthly times 6 months.
Okay,
So it's not a continual thing, it's a lump sum payment for those.
okay, so
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gameros, I think what you're looking for is in the first line there of A. This would be for a confirmed total loss of the structure. So if their home is totally destroyed, totally unlivable, that's when they would qualify. And that, I mean, a total loss is a total loss. There's no need for any calculation beyond that. Once we confirm that, then that would be the $9,000.
Okay, so that would just be that lump sum of $9,000.
Correct.
Okay, and then on B?
And B would require documentation that it is a long-term inability to continue living there. So if they're able to document that they are unable to live there for 30 days, 60 days, that's when they would then qualify for the $3,000.
Okay, so is the $3,000, because you said 30 days or 60 days?
We're
What
not
is it
going
going
to.
to be for?
Right. We're recommending we just have that lump sum and not try to parse, well, you know what, you stayed with mom and dad for a couple of days, and we're not going to give you credit for that. If the damage is sufficient, there's actually a national rating standard. This is what would be considered moderate to severe, but not a total loss. So if that's hit that and it's not safe to live in, then they would qualify for that. And then C is just that short term, generally because they can't access the property and live there safely, that would provide them that housing opportunity.
Okay, they're all lump sums, right? Okay,
In general, that is correct. It's much easier for everybody to administer that way as well.
okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I would like to also point out that there are other agencies and other organizations that could potentially increase that fund and help us out if they want, including the governor's office. You know,
Sorry.
yeah, we're requesting that too. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? No? Brandy, will you roll call the commission on the amendment with the numbers, please?
Commissioner Gameros?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Chaparro?
Yes.
Chair Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes. The amendment has passed. Those numbers are changed. Is anyone like live annotating this so we can sign it after?
I will run back up to my office, change the numbers, and run back down with a copy before you can leave.
We love that. Okay. Commissioners, anything on, no? Resolution as amended? Okay, Commissioner Sanchez, anything?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, I think as Vice Chair Chaparro had mentioned, and I really appreciate the staff at the OEM and all of our county staff that are continuing to step up during this process. To the Lieutenant Governor Morales, thank you so much. There's not a bigger advocate for Southern New Mexico, and appreciate the work you do, as well as that of the governor supporting all residents in New Mexico and in Doña County. I did, to the residents of Doña County that have been affected by this, I just want to say that, you know, my heart's with you all, and I appreciate my fellow commissioners working to come up with a solution and working through trying to come up with something that we think will work best for the community. But I know some of these people have seen, as I think noted as the during public input, that they've seen flooding before. And my promise to you is that, you know, like we saw in La Union, we will work to try and remedy the situation, to try to mitigate any future issues. I know that was one of the concerns that was brought up to us with La Union. And I think it is an example. You can see how our legislators and the governor's office and the state helping us with improving the infrastructure there. With even this year, you know, we've seen some of those flood projects coming to completion and getting to that area. So I want to say that we will work as the county commission to work to ensure that we work in improving the infrastructure, you know, across the county, but especially in your neighborhoods. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well said, Commissioner. Thank you. Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, again, thanking our staff and also thanking the Lieutenant Governor, because I know he was on his way to Ruidoso to address the massive flooding there. Pero como dijo el comisionador Sánchez, el condado de Doña está aquí para ayudarles. tenemos un compromiso fuerte para nuestros vecinos, no nomás en el sur, pero sabemos que hay mucha agua, la cual ha llovido por todo el condado. El condado, nuestro equipo, está listos para ayudarlos. Estamos listos para ver, para escuchar y unidos con esa comisión mano a mano, también con el equipo del condado. Estamos aquí con ustedes, no nos vamos a dejar nunca. Gracias a todos por su paciencia y si necesitan algo, con mucho gusto vamos a recibir sus llamadas. Tienen nuestros números de teléfono. Mis bendiciones, mis oraciones con ustedes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Hope everyone's ready for this. We're setting some major waves with this today, so cool. Anything else? Maybe the NB. Seeing none. Brandy, roll call the commission, please. Let's get it done.
Commissioner Gameros,
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chaparro,
Yes.
Chair Shaljo Hernandez.
Yes. Motion carries. Will you give us the resolution number, please,
Sorry.
Brandy?
Yes, that resolution number is going to be 2025-87.
87. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who came.
Yes,
to
thank you
support
for
this.
coming up. We appreciate you. Okay, commissioners, any final thoughts, comments? Nothing? Okay. With that being said, the time is 5:46, and I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.